Hi, my name is Braxton Igny, and today I'll be giving you my presentation about the cool history of Halley's Comet from 466 BC to 2061. I'll start with a poem. Miss Murphy in first grade wrote its name in chalk across the board and told us it was roaring down the storm tracks of the Milky Way, and if it were to wander off its course and smashed into the earth, there'd be no school tomorrow. This is a poem by Stanley Kunitz, one of the most famous modern American poets. He wrote this story about when he was a young boy and he saw Halley's Comet for the first time and he thought he was going to die. So, I've known about Halley's Comet since 7th grade when I did a science project on it, but after doing some extensive research these last few weeks, I feel like I'm really ready to present about its really interesting history. So, the three things I'm going to be talking about in this presentation are the theorized appearances in ancient times, then its revolutionary discovery in 1705, and finally its recent sightings all the way up until its next predicted sighting in 2061. So to start off with, let's take a trip back in time. In the past, in ancient times, the comet was very little understood, and that caused a lot of superstition and myth around it. So the first theorized sighting was in 466 BC by the ancient Greeks. Now, in Encyclopedia Britannica, it states that if this were to be true, that would be 2,500 years ago. That's crazy. But the most widely accepted first sighting was in 240 BC. In the article, The Long-Term Motion of Comet Halley, it talks about how Chinese astronomers observed and recorded these comets firsthand. The most famous sighting in ancient history was probably in 1066 AD. Comets at this time were thought to be a really bad omen, and the French were invading England at this time. In the article, How Halley's Comet Shaped History, it talks about how the French thought that this comet was an omen that they would win the war. And it actually proved correct, their superstitions, when they defeated British in the Battle of Hastings. So, right here I have a picture that was made around that same time, and here we have King Harold of England, and he's cowering beneath Halley's Comet right here, which is an omen of his defeat. Next we'll talk about its sightings continued, but we'll talk about how they finally made the connections that they were the same comet. So Edmund Halley in 1705, he was a famous English astronomer that studied the comets and stars. And in Encyclopedia Britannica, it states that he was a pioneer of Western thought and that he worked a lot with really great scientists such as Sir Isaac Newton to develop these theories. In 1705, he released his book, A Synopsis of Astronomy of Comets, and in this book he predicted that the comets in 1531, 1607, and 1682 were actually all the same. He was able to accurately predict the next sighting in 1758, but sadly he died in 1742 before he was able to see his predictions be correct. All right. Now, in modern times, now that people know what this comet is about, there's still a lot that's unknown and feared about it. So a really good example of this was in 1910. Scientists had evolved enough that they can tell that the Earth was going to be passing through the comet's tail. But as evident in the Library of Congress, where they show several newspapers from the times, this doesn't mean that any of the fear had dispersed. A lot of newspapers at the time actually quoted scientists from France, Camille Flammarion, and he basically theorized that since we'd be passing through the tail and that was full of cyanogen gas, that it would snuff out all life on the planet. But obviously we're still here, so he was incorrect. But moving on towards modern times, currently we have enough information about these comets to very accurately predict their next sightings. So the next sighting will be on July 27th, 2061. Now I'm 18, so that means the next time the comet comes around, I will be 59. It's crazy. Yeah, so a lot has changed throughout history in this comet, and it's still shrouded in a lot of wonder. It has a fascinating history full of omens and mass hysteria, from ancient Greece to China to its revolutionary discovery to its modern day understanding. It's really telling of how human understanding of the universe and science has changed in general. Yeah, so I hope that we all live to see the next sighting in 2061, and that we'll all be there to see the comet roaring down the storm tracks of the Milky Way at tremendous speed, just like Stanley Kunitz once did. Thank you.